Hi, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I guess it's time for a late night meandering, and one of the subjects that I'm inspired by is as a result of listening to a podcast tonight. And in that podcast, one of the criticisms leveled at me was that I tell people how to behave and how to feel, which was actually never my intention. But what happens is, surely, that everybody has an opinion, and when you decide to express that opinion, if I can see you for a moment, do you mind, Kat? That you may be judged as a know-it-all, you may be judged as not confident enough, or too confident, or arrogant, or any one of these things you can be judged by, because you made the mistake of opening your mouth and voicing your opinion. Well, that's what I'm doing. Now, a few really nice quotes that I like, not always the most positive, because in spite of all of the reputation that I have for wanting a feel-good channel and not wanting to hear anything that doesn't coincide with exactly what I believe, I like the one that I read in, I think it was a Shaker book, and it was about a Shaker family, and the wise father said to his son, "Never pass up the chance to keep your mouth shut." Well, that seems a bit hard, but sometimes I wish that I'd done that. Dalai Lama, I remember, said, "When you talk, you're just talking and expressing what you already know. When you listen, you have a chance to learn something." Now, I paraphrase that into my own, but I think that pretty well does what is the essence of what I'm talking about. Now, the thing is that whenever I give a quote, I never expect to get it perfect. What I'm expecting is that I will get the spirit of the quote in what I say. Now, getting the spirit of the quote or the spirit of, say, an agreement is the most important thing. I think we are making agreements all the time, and we judge whether the other person has been right or wrong, or good or bad, or all of those things, in whether they keep the spirit of the agreement. A friend of mine I may have used this this example once before, but it's a true-to-life example. This man had a son. He was the father was an attorney, and so he thought like an attorney, obviously. In fact, I used to express some of my ideas to him sometimes, and once he said to me, "Terence, don't tell me your ideas, because it's my job when people come to me with various statements, situations, ideas, to find the fault in them. So I'm not the most positive person to express your good ideas to." So I never did after that. But I remember this example of how he dealt with his son. His son was not the greatest kid to have around, quite difficult. By the way, I don't love all children without some qualification. I don't automatically think, "Oh, well, he's a kid, you just have to love him." No, I don't think like that, you know. Children are people, and they have to earn your love and respect the same as anybody else does, and if they behave badly or they're turning out badly, then you don't have to like them. That's my feeling. Well, this kid fell into that kind of category, and I didn't care too much for him. Well, his father, he kept on asking for a particular video game, and his father got really frazzled in the end. "Will you stop asking for that game?" And no, he wouldn't give up. He wanted, let's call it the Frankenstein game. he wanted the game about Frankenstein, and he wanted it. Dad, I want that video game. Please get me the video game. Right? Well, in the end, his attorney father, thinking attorney, said, right, here, I've made this agreement out. And the agreement, as you can see, says you agree if I buy this Frankenstein game for you, you will give up the right to ever demand another game from me. If I choose to give you a game, then that's my decision, but you can't demand it, and you've got to agree with that. Now, if you agree, sign the bottom line. And kid thought about it, not for very long, he's a kid, and he signed the agreement. So then they went down to the video shop and they looked at the games, and I spoke to the man behind the counter. We want the video game, that is the Frankenstein video game. Well, the Frankenstein video game was a very popular game, so it was sold out. So the father then says, now what? So the son said, well, I like the vampire game. So they bought the vampire game and they came home and the kid played it to death. Well, playing it and playing it and playing it. After a week or so, he said to the father, I want the Frankenstein game. The father said, excuse me for just a moment, I have to show you something. And he went to the cupboard and he found the agreement where the kid had agreed and signed on the dotted line that he would not ask for a game again. And the kid looked at the agreement and he thought for a moment. Then he said to the father, well, actually, that was for the Frankenstein game. And I didn't get the Frankenstein game, did I? You bought me the vampire game. The father knew, he's an attorney. He knew he'd been had. He tried to argue, well, the spirit of the agreement is that you were bought a game. Dad, never mind the spirit of the agreement. What was the agreement that I signed? So he got the Frankenstein game. For me, the father had missed the boat on guiding this kid. He should have made him keep the spirit of the agreement, but he didn't. And as an attorney, strangely enough, he was quite proud of his son. He's talking to me. I was quite proud of him. He'd spotted the small print and he'd acted upon it. Good for him. So I'm guessing another attorney stepped out on that long journey of forgetting about right and wrong and doing whatever the law says. So, what's the point of this meandering? Is talking about the fact that sometimes what? Look at the cat. Can you get down? Sorry, just a little aside, but that's real life, isn't it? The cat's climbing up the wall. Well, the point being that whenever I come up with one of my ideas, or whenever I come up with something that I think is applicable or right or has been inspired by the situation in the day, a day of our lives, I come and I talk about it. Now, here's the most useful piece of advice that I was ever given. When you're given a piece of information, you take what is good for you and you act upon that. And if it's no good for you, guess what you do with it? Nothing. So, if any of the information that I consider is valuable or worth passing on is no good to you, then you have my full agreement. I agree that you shouldn't do anything with it. But if it's worth some of your attention or some of your time, then take it and use it. That's the best thing. Now here's another little tip I think is worth remembering. Sometimes we take a piece of information in and it may not make any sense to us right at that moment, but later, be it minutes, be it hours, weeks, months, years, it may become relevant. Now, one of the pieces of information which I act on a daily basis was one of my favourite comedians, George Burns. And George Burns was asked, "How do you do it, George? You're 84 years old." And I'm sure that I told you this one before as well. You're 84 years old. How do you do it? You always look so happy. And he said, "I try to get through each day with the least amount of aggravation." And then George, in his wisdom, also said the phone call that he wished he would have, but he knew would never happen, was the one from his son, where his son would say to him, "I'm really sorry, Dad. You were right." I don't think I'm ever going to get that phone call. This is a foreigner living in the Philippines and voicing an opinion. Bye for now.